All right, everyone, the day's upon us, and I'm giving you guys my She-Hulk recommendations. Is she a buy or is she a pass? How does she fit into our current meta? Where do I picture her in war? And can I give you guys any perspective as to what a counter is going to look like to them if they wind up on war defense? Let's get right to it. So She-Hulk, guys, this is about $160 worth of She-Hulk. This is Red Star Disappointment at its most extreme, with multiple dupes in the system, 5s and 6s galore, and none of them getting it on She-Hulk. Relatively average pulls on her kit. I just didn't foresee her being a great value, so I didn't go through my normal process with her. So the thing about it is, she is a very, very, very interesting character. And my concern is that the AI is going to default to some of her abilities and not let her perform the way we thought she was. So we're going to take her into Blitz right now. I brought up a couple 8.3 battles. We'll see if there's anything that we can beat pretty quickly. And as a matter of fact, we're going to take her right into these defenders that are already juiced with some of the ISOs here. So we're going to go ahead and start this up, talk about what she does. And I think the shortcomings of her kit should become pretty apparent as we go through this. Now, she is level gear 12, 4-star, 2 red, and you might see some things that are shocking to you. But unfortunately, there's going to be a couple of shortcomings that'll be relatively apparent here. So really quickly, when we get to Invisible Woman's turn, we're going to talk about how these kits synergize. Okay, so Invisible Woman here on AI is going to default to her ult. So what that means is that turn 1, you're not going to be taunting with She-Hulk. Now, she does have offense up. She's going to retaliate pretty well as you strike other members, but that's going to leave members of the party relatively weak here. She doesn't have a reflexive taunt, nothing along those lines to really justify her in defense. So we're going to show you guys the specific actions here. So turn 1, for Invisible Woman, she's going to pop her ult. Now, an offense down is enough to slow down a lot of teams. And the good news is this is actually a team specifically that is going to lose here. All right? And then she's going to ult, which means that she's going to go ahead and target the highest damage target. But the problem with that is she's got to use her focus. It's got offense up, and then apply stun, when we just saw in that case was resisted. So as of this moment, there's still no taunts going on. So you're still free to start targeting the real meat of the Fantastic Four. So that's my concern. So again, the AI is going to default to the ults. Like I said, we're probably still going to rip through this, but that's going to be a strength of pretty much the AI. Not having an AI being the human behind the screen here. So the first turn you're going to get a taunt is when Invisible Woman does her stealth ability. So that on the AI is at the second turn. And against a team that's faster than Invisible Woman and significantly faster than She-Hulk, that's going to mean that you're going to have a lot of damage openings to either control She-Hulk. She does have high damage, so putting a stun on her, slowing her down. She does have high resists that are enhanced if you T4 Fantastic Four. And we're going to go through that and talk about why I think certain things are happening here. All right, now we're going to throw out auto. They're going to make quick work of this team. She-Hulk is surprisingly sturdy. I think that was the biggest thing that I saw about it, was she was taking a ton of hits against G14, 6, and 7 Red Star characters at 8.3. So I was definitely surprised to see that. So we can see how on war defense she probably does endure enough to be annoying. So we'll go through this really quickly and give you my overall recommendations. So she is probably Kraken territory. And the reason why she's Kraken territory is if you guys are even light spenders right now, we all know that a major character is around the corner with Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom is going to solidify the symbiotes as probably the premier team in the game in a lot of categories. So if we actually invest in this character being a bio character, it's going to deplete a lot of your resources, more important, your red stars, or just your overall cash if you're spending money. Something we have to take in consideration. Next part of the puzzle is she's definitely built so she could be enhanced by a couple of the ISOs. ISOs on this team are going to be enhanced by the skirmisher striker combination, and she could very well fit into either one of those categories. So definitely something we want to consider. She is a heavy hitter with a lot of attack power and a ton of HP. So she's definitely been power crept in that regard. When we're looking at war defense, some things to take in consideration is when you're looking at the Fantastic Four, some of the T4s that you probably haven't done because they win without them are going to be things like Mr. Fantastic's passive for science. Okay? This basically allows them to remove more positive effects, so taking off the offense down on the term, but more importantly is another 10% focus and resistance. Those numbers are significant because she has a ton of resistance, and if she gets stunned turn one, it really is one of the weak points, I think, in that team. So themes like Guardians, Supernatural become apparent counters, if not perfect counters. I don't think they're going to punch up as much. So potentially something you're going to want to consider if you start seeing these guys on defense. Just unfortunately, in the defensive cycle, we just had a war when she came out, so I was able to use her on war offense and was shocked at how valuable she actually was on war offense. So that T4, a lot of you probably have already done this Invisible Wound T4. I just haven't, because the 10% max health, I've always been controlling that with damage by out damaging my opponents here. And so that's the big overall difference. So I don't think I'm going to say that she is a must-have. I could be wrong. I think if you have the ability to take her to high red stars, to take her to match her with the power of a high-powered team of Fantastic Four, they may start commanding more powerful teams. And it feels like they've almost built this as a preview for Supernatural 2.0. I'm saying that right now because I feel like Supernatural has a lot of the keys, but most people aren't going to have their Supernatural built up to really take on a high-powered Fantastic Four team. So maybe that's a hint of what's to come. Guardians have enough burst damage to potentially get through her, and they have the utility stun from Mantis if it does enough to get through her resistance. And if you have the T4 and Mr. Fantastic, or you put Skirmisher on her, there are a lot of different ways to balance that out. But there is a lot of damage coming from the team if you're using these four and She-Hulk. So I think it's still easy to underestimate him. My judgment here, though, is if you had to choose Anti-Venom or She-Hulk, for me, it's an easy choice. I'm a content creator. You guys help me do this by supporting me in all the ways you can, by liking, subscribing to my videos. More importantly, following me on Twitch, where we do these mad laboratory experiments. Another thing we're going to talk about is the ISO list is getting updated. We're going to be adding the actual striker info in that. So take a look at this tier list. We're going to have it linked in our description here again. This tier list will show you guys what we're evaluating for ISOs. We're going to be putting some notes into why we chose some of these categories, and then also adding what the abilities will be doing for striker. So it'll be your one-stop source for all this information. And really, you guys can become part of the conversation every day on Twitch. You guys can catch me at 3 p.m. Eastern. I do return at 9:30 p.m. Eastern or around, and then we can go through this and you guys can become part of the community response. Again, thank you guys for embracing that here as well. And again, final summation. You guys will see that I'm building up my symbiotes here. I depleted a lot of my purple mats. So it's a good thing that we don't think that Anti-Venom is going to be a quick follow-up to this, but Anti-Venom on the horizon, that's the character you really want to be holding for, with depleting red stars, to spending money that you may have reserved for something else. It is a really tough recommendation for that. So I'm concerned, and I'm going to say this right now, that she becomes an unlock requirement for something down the road. Again, I don't think we're going to see a variant of her. I'm going to try her a little bit more on Young Avengers. I haven't tested her out in Young Avengers. I kind of just went with the team that she seemed designed for. I've heard some good things about her there, but she's just so slow, and she doesn't get to retaliate unless people are targeting her, that I still think that is probably not her best environment. So Hope to get some war footage for you guys over the next 24 to 48 hours when the next war comes through. We're definitely going to see them on there. I'm going to throw them on my team. Unfortunately, where I live, without having a big enough She-Hulk, she's just going to get decimated by being overpowered. So for me, Krakens probably will pick her up, level her up. For everyone else, she's probably a mostly pass. And for good reason. It's really hard to justify her in a team that's already working to counter one of our premier defense teams. So I hope I'm wrong. Hope we can find some use out of her. Stay tuned. We'll have some more war updates coming soon. All right, guys, thank you very much for your support. Check you guys out on Twitch, and thanks for following and subscribing.